Got Dr. Alexander gonna spark it up in here. Hey, it's my shaft music, Dr. Alexander. I have to get my shaft on before I get my energy right, you know. Why is that sometimes when we can say we need to get our energy right before we say anything. Gonna get it sparked in here. Get it sparked in here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get it sparked. You guys are ready? Now, there's a moment in a lot of schools where you can feel it. People are working, meetings are happening, initiatives, they rolling out like they coming. But if we ask five different teachers what success looks like right now in their building, you might get five very different answers. And that gap, that's where a lot of our challenges actually begin because everyone is on a different page. Today, I'm joined by Dr. C.T. Alexander, someone who brings deep experience in working with leaders, both locally and nationally, and educators to strengthen instructional clarity, alignment, and impact across schools. Let's start with what this looks like in real life. Welcome, Dr. Alexander.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation.
Well, we're going to jump right into it. Now, that idea of people moving, but not necessarily together, is something a lot of leaders are struggling with and wrestling with. So, let's talk about what actually helps. So, what do you think really helps them?
I I think the most in my experience, both as someone who has worked in a federal space as well as a young professional in these spaces. The thing that's helped me most, and the thing that's helped my friends the most, no matter what sector they're in, and I have a lot of friends who are just now kind of reaching that middle stage of their careers. The thing that's helped people most is managing up and being able to tell their supervisor what they need, and being detailed in what that is, and having the freedom to do so. Good leadership allows you to say what you need and not feel judged or demonized for it. They allow you to speak up for yourself. The other thing I think is networking across. I hear Issa Rae talk about this a lot, and I kind of took it on and owned it for myself. Uh, it's not just about like, when you're networking or when you're in a room with colleagues, it's not about like, who is the most senior person in the room? How do I talk to them? It's about talking to your, whether that be your fellow teachers, your fellow communicators, whoever that is, whatever you do in that space, talking to them and saying, okay, here is what we're all struggling with. How can we pull our resources together and make the best of a situation that isn't what we want it to be quite yet? And how do we advocate for each other in that space? Kind of band together, because you kind of figure out somewhere in that you're not the only person going through that. You're not the only person learning and trying to grow. There's other people who are right on your same level trying to do the same thing.
That is so like amazing because I just was having a conversation about that just the other day about why aren't we having more meetings about the struggle? Like
Right.
what is something on our team that our team is struggling with the most, and let's brainstorm together and feel free to discuss the struggles versus acting like, oh, we good, boo, you broke. Like you imagine like people like, you need any money? No, we good, but you broke. You
But you're
you
broke.
need some help. Like talk to some people.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're quiet. Closed mouths don't get fed. You're quiet, and or you haven't been given the freedom to speak, and everyone thinks it's okay. And then we get 5 years on the road, and people start blowing up and getting burned out, and all of those things. And
Yeah,
it's
I'm
right.
so tired of hearing that word burned out. I don't want to hear that word. We over here, we thriving over here. We
Right.
thriving because in our mind we have clarity and we have direction, and then we get stuck somewhere, we reach out and we ask for help, right?
Absolutely.
That's the
Absolutely.
only way not to get burned out for me. It's like, hey, is it me or I need some help? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, or do you know what you're doing? Girl, I don't know what I'm doing either.
Right.
Hey, I think that starts it. But being able to feel free, like you said, having leadership where you can feel free to discuss that is very hard sometimes because so many teachers actually feel judged or evaluated and don't want to be transparent. So what's coming through here is this idea that clarity isn't just about setting a goal.
Mhm.
It sounds like also it's about alignment and discussing your problems openly. And it's about making the work visible enough that people can see it, name it, and adjust it in real time. And without that, even strong effort can feel really disconnected. So I'm curious about what's coming through here. Clarity isn't just about setting a goal. So what do you also needed in order for us to get clear on what the expectation is?
I think for me, it is always, you're right. It's not just about clarity. It's also about uh, the, the goal itself. What is the goal? So it's not just the clarity of the goal, but it's like let's put some metrics to it. What does it look like to achieve this goal in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 4? What does that look like? Because I think a lot of times for folks, it's not so much that they don't know what the goal is. Like the clarity is there. I can, the goal is, we want our students to come to school. Okay, what does that look like? What are the tactics there? What are the strategies? What do we need to do? And that goes back to that conversation piece. Is like we sometimes get so attached to the idea of completing the goal that we don't realize that you got to eat that elephant one bite at a time. You can't just stuff the whole thing in your mouth and hope that it gets there. You have to take it piece by piece, line by line, and really dissect what it means to have success. And again, that goes back to that whole networking across. So talking to your colleagues and saying, "Here's the goal. What are y'all doing to reach this goal?" I have one of my friends is a teacher, a K-12 teacher, an instructional coach, and that's something we talk about a lot. As he's like navigating the K-12 space, is that how does he help his teachers reach their goals and talking to his teachers one on one about what their goals are, but also bringing them together and saying, "Hey, you three people all said the same thing. What can we do to get you all? What
On the
strategy are
same
you using? How can we
page.
network across?" Right. Um,
Well, I actually had another question. Like skipped it. So hey, um, in your experience though, what are the signs that a school or a team is working really hard, not necessarily moving in the same direction?
I will definitely speak from so on the school side. I've seen it as an observer, especially after the ARP funds came out and all of that. Um, it did look like every school I visited, I'm not just saying this to be kind, but every school I visited, they were moving. I really saw the dedication, and I think that's something that we don't talk about enough. It's dedication of teachers and administrators in their buildings to really like advocate for their students. Um, and that actually got me thinking about as when I'm leading teams now, what I think about in those teams is what I saw in those schools. Again, teachers being able to advocate, being able to go to the Secretary of Education and say, "Here's what we've done," and they're not saying it because the principal told them to say it. They're saying it because they went to the principal and advocated for that thing and made it happen. And so I think the thing I've seen on teams that don't kind of function that way is
Yes.
that lack of clarity and that lack of understanding of actually what we're all fighting for. What are the vision? What's the vision? What's the purpose? What's the mission? What are the goals? And the
But
organization.
how does across though? Like, how do we actually get this across? I'm a principal. I feel like every faculty meeting, I haven't read my goals for the year.
Yeah,
We got it on the wall. Like, why is it when I ask four different teachers, I'm still getting different messaging?
I think
Now we got to solve this problem. Seriously. Oh
no,
no.
and no, it's a big problem, and you're absolutely right. It's a big problem. I think I'll give you a good example. An organization that me and my friends have built in this last year. It's a think tank focused on policy development, and a bunch of us are uh, we either work in politics, we're researchers, or we're educators, and in my case, I'm all three. So there are pieces of this where I'm looking at it from the angle of an educator. I'm looking at an angle of a policy person, an angle of a communicator, whatever the angle is. And the one thing they all have to come to me as a leader and say is, hey, when we go and talk about this on the road, we're all saying different things. No one has said the same thing yet.
Mm.
And I had to, as a leader, I had to take a step back, not be defensive about it, and say,
Yes.
you know what, you're absolutely right. Let's have a conversation about what this looks like from all of our perspectives. And we all were saying different things. When we got together, we all said, well, Ascension does this, Ascension does that. And it was like,
Yes.
no,
You didn't have your common
and
pitch
me as
like you going to the Sharks. You got to be
right,
ready. We going to the
right,
Sharks. Got to have it in line.
right. And me as the person who founded it, I'm like, oh, that's not at all what I was thinking it does. As the person
I know
who
because
dreamt
we
this
think
up.
it's so obvious because we see it. It's just
Right,
like a teacher teaching a lesson and they've been teaching it for 10 years and they don't understand why the kids don't get it. But you've been teaching it for
right.
10 years. You know it. It's
You
you.
gotta change
How do
it.
you scaffold
Right.
this? How do we scaffold this so that
And so
everyone is in alignment?
right. And to go back to your previous question about like, you put it on the walls, everybody sees it. And you're right. By that time, we should be able to say it verbatim, but it's almost like you don't want this is what I'm thinking. You don't want people to be able to say it verbatim. You want them to be able to put it in their own words. So as
Yes.
long as, and I say this about political messaging as well, right? It's like we should have the same message, but depending on who you're talking to, that message needs to look like the community in which you're talking to. So,
Yes. From that
if we go back to the
stakeholders.
school environment, right, right. And so one class is going to need something different than another class. One teacher is going to need something different for teacher. If you're running a school building, you have all these different stakeholders: the parents, the students, the teachers, the clerical staff, the custodian. You have all these different stakeholders who have to understand this vision, but they're all going to understand it from different viewpoints because they have different perspectives on that vision. It is your job as a leader to take that step back and say, is the vision clear enough where they will get it? And is it in a place where they can then verbalize it to other people? It might sound different, but at the end of the day, boom, that's the vision. It's not disputable. I can't dispute that vision.
Well, I usually do this 10-minute conversation. I got to ask one more question. We'll go a little bit. I think a lot of leaders are struggling with this. This is like how are we able to navigate this because we can say certain things and feel like you said that everyone is there, but they're not really there. So the other question I wanted to ask you is when leaders are trying to improve something, like I don't know how many leaders I hear trying to improve student engagement or rigor. What have you seen work when it comes to helping teachers really understand what success looks like in practice?
Mm. I think
You're
the
not ready
first
for these kind of questions, are you? You ready for them on the top questions, aren't you?
it got me thinking. It really do got me thinking. And I'll be honest with you,
Yes.
the that's a tough question because I think different people require different things to understand how success looks in practice.
Yes.
Some people are, more hands-on. Some people are more, you can tell them and verbalize it. But I think the thing that is most helpful is, again, just that conversation. Is just bringing the team together. When people are in their silos, they think they're the only person dealing with the problem.
Yeah.
But when you bring everyone together and can say, as a community, here is what's wrong, or here is what we can improve on, that and that goes back to that idea. Someone said, "You struggling with that too? Oh, me too. We could. Well, this is what I do. Well, this is what and it helps find solutions that you didn't even realize,
We're
were
there.
there. I think we have done a really big disservice of trying to be an island when we should just be a community, and I think that's in every
That's
space.
one of our biggest challenges since like 1995. That has been in the literature of one of the biggest challenges is the fact that we do so many things in isolation. And when I looked at that question and I was thinking about, what does this look like in practice? Well, in an elementary math school setting, it may look different in a reading setting. So that's why I think it's important that leaders develop smaller visions within teams of teachers.
Right.
And when everyone has their different roles, like you said, the perspective may look different depending on what your role is and how you are looking at it from that perspective. And then you can have more intimate conversations during the PLC, often to me underutilized in schools. When this to
Yeah.
me is like that unit, it's that wax on, wax off to get down to those fundamental things we need to constantly be doing in the classroom. So I'm going to kind of ask you one more question. I'm just going to squeeze this in. I'm just,
Okay.
I want to pick your brain. Um, so Okay, why did I just lose my mind? Okay, how do you think strong leaders create clarity around outcomes while still protecting teacher autonomy and
Mhm.
professional judgment?
Buy-in. Buy-in is the answer there. So I think when you are first speaking to your team, to your teachers about what you need from them for the year, for the semester, for the quarter, whatever it is, what you want to do is ask them what they're working on first. What are your goals for yourself? What do you want to build? You know, that one-on-one conversation. I think understanding your team and what they're looking for and what they're searching for helps you figure out those outcomes uh, and make them specific to your team and not generic to the overall. Well, here's what I want. Here's my idea of what this should look like. And I think leaders misplace uh, or I should say misplaced. Leaders lose the faith of their teams when they do that. When they kind of say, "Well, here's the goal for the year," or "Here's the goal for the quarter,"
Or here's the
and
solution. We
right,
already made the solution. We just
right,
gonna give it to you.
and you're not in the classroom day to day. You're not, you're not talking to the kids. You're not in the meetings. You're in the, not day to day. And so I think like that is the challenge leaders, especially in the school environment, I think would have. I think that again, it translates everywhere though. I think you need to, as a leader of a team, you need to be able to say to your team, what are you all looking for? And you should have your own goals too, but then you should be able to synthesize those goals together and say, and like you said, uh, have the more manageable, smaller, vision for that team that the team can then execute. So it's not this large 10-year plan or large thing for 300
Yes.
people. You got 10 people that we're trying to get on one page, and then
Trying to
10
get
more
on one
people over
page.
here, and then we can come together at the end of that. But we don't need to. We don't. We When I was working on my dissertation, one of my professors said to me, "Do you want to save the world or do you want to graduate?" Um, we can save the world tomorrow, and we need to save the world. Like what we're doing will help, but we can't help if we're not moving forward. And if we're in a circular conversation about goals and vision and everything being so granular, so big, so grand, then we're missing the boat when we can just be real focused on something real specific and real, real clear.
Clear micro, like that micro, because really that is where the change happens. So these are exactly the kinds of leadership conversations we're continuing at the Spark Curiosity EDU, the Experience 2026 in Austin, Texas, taking place July 31st to August the 2nd. We're creating a space for leaders to think deeply about how we move from intention to actual classroom impact. So I'm going to leave you with this. If your team had to describe what your current focus looks like in practice, what would their answers be? Would their answers align? I want some leaders who are listening to the program today to think about that. That question alone can shift a lot. We're going to see you next week on the 10-minute live spark, but we're going to end tonight's program with a song called Clear Goal. Like what is the goal? And it cannot just be get kids to pass exams. We have to think about micro goals for our micro team so that we can get to that bigger, clear goal. So thank you so much for listening in. We'll see you next Wednesday with a 10-minute live start.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning, got a clear goal on my mind. Not just moving through the motions, not just running down the time. Every step intentional, every move designed. If you're building something lasting, we gotta get aligned. No more scattered vision, no more guessing roles, no more empty meaning, chasing random goals. We don't rise by accident, we grow on purpose. Slow when the pages share together, that's when leaders flow. It ain't about me, it ain't about you. It's That's what we create when we build something true. Win-win vision, nobody compromise. Clarity, the compass, now we unify. Clear goal, that's the focus. Clear goal, now we know this. Same dream, watch it unfold.